Hey, it's 2 o'clock on a Thursday, so you know what time it is. It is Dividing Truth time with the MAG7, short for Magnificent Seven. I am Lexi Jones, and we're here today with Joan Thaxter Randall and Erica Etienne. And today's topic is purpose, understanding purpose, finding your purpose, how to walk in your purpose. It's all about purpose. But in general, this show, like I said, MAG7 is seven of us, seven dynamic women who've overcome unthinkable odds on the journey to success. And each week we're sharing with you invaluable experiences in entrepreneurship and business ownership. And as we love to say, pure, unadulterated answers for today's business owner. So over the next few weeks, we thought it would be great to have you get to know each one of us, right? But we didn't want to just be up here talking just for the sake of talking about ourselves or anything like that. We wanted to be sure that we tie it into a topic beneficial to you. We want to make sure that, you know, you get some great wisdom as we come to you week to week. And so today, I was nominated to go first and share my story with you all. So again, today I'm going to be sharing my story. My sisters here are going to be asking questions as I share the story. We're just going to have a natural conversation. But we also want to give a great shout out to Radio Indy. You are listening to Radio Indy. And if you're on, make sure that you share the broadcast out or invite people to the broadcast. 3 ways you can listen. You can go to the website, www.radioindy317.com. And or you can listen on the Facebook page, Radio Indy, and also on the app that you can download on your Google Store or your Play Store or where Apple Store, wherever you download your apps, you can download it there, Radio Indy. So let's dig in for today, shall we, ladies?
Yes, let's go.
All right. I think actually before I go, let me both of you, neither of you, I think, were on last week. So why don't I give you guys an opportunity just to very briefly just share who you are, a little bit about what you do, and then we'll dig in.
All right, I'll start. So my name is Joan T. Randall. I'm an award-winning 5-time best-selling author, speaker, coach, and I'm also the president of the Limitless Lifestyle Method, where we deal with mindset, mission, and money.
Yes.
Read them, I love it. Look, I'm like, what else do you?
Right.
My name is Erica Etienne, and I am also a best-selling author and speaker, filmmaker, playwright, amongst other things. Fabulous mother of 4 beautiful girls. I don't ever want to leave that out. But I am also the host of the amazing P3 Emerge Retreat. So I help women of faith walk powerfully and unapologetically in their God-given purpose with pure peace.
Yes, I love the pure peace part.
Pure peace.
Absolutely, absolutely. And I'm Lexi Jones, business coach and international speaker, profit strategist. And that's all I'm going to say because I'm going to be doing quite a bit of talking. All right, so let's dig in. So, ladies, I'm just going to go ahead and get started in sharing my story. But please feel free to just, interject with questions. Again, it's just conversation. And, at the outcome really we want for you all is to be able to get some wisdom that you can use in your own entrepreneurial journey, in your own life walk. So in 2008, we'll start there. In 2008, I lost everything. So, we're talking about job, house, car, went through divorce, filed bankruptcy. I mean, almost anything you can imagine losing, without losing life, I lost, right? So I found myself thrust into single motherhood, 3 small children, and wondering, like, how the heck did I end up here? because for me, growing up, I didn't really, I don't want to make it out like my mom was, rich, or my mom and dad were rich or anything like that. They did fine, and when my parents divorced, my mom did have some struggles. She just did a really great job of shielding us from the struggles, so we never went without. However, up until that point, whatever it is that I wanted, I got, because I was always told, whatever you put your mind to do, you can do it. And so, whether it was excelling in school, and after school, getting whatever jobs I wanted, I mean, it, I would get it, right? Now, I had never gone on an interview where I didn't get an offer. And it was just that kind of life. So at that point, I'd done everything that people say you should do, right? Go to school, get your degree, get married, have some kids, white picket fence, a pet, all all of that, right? Now I'm allergic to dogs and things, so we had fish. We we couldn't have the dog, but that was the life that I was living, and I didn't necessarily do all of that in that order, but I had gotten to a point where I had achieved all of that, and I had a really, really great paying job that I was enjoying for the most part. And so when I encountered the spiral of events in 2008, and I'm standing there now trying to figure out, okay, what next? I've got these three children, that I need to feed and, support, and I've got a mound of bills and debt from the foreclosure and all kinds of things, bills that were in my name and everything. So for me, it felt like the end of the world. That's what it felt like to me. And at some point, I was able to, after a few months, several months actually, I was able to get a decent job through a temp agency, which then allowed me to be able to get us into our own apartment. And when I moved into that apartment, I mean, we literally had nothing, okay? It was just us in the space. Us in the space, okay, in their clothing. But other than that, it was nothing else. But I was happy because we were now in our own space, and it seemed like things were starting to, to pick up and go places. And but I was still confused and confounded about how I ended up where I was. And so each night, I would go through this routine of putting the children to bed, and then I would come back downstairs, and I would just lay out prostrate on the floor, and I would cry myself to sleep. This went on every night for a while. And one night, though, it was really, really different, the crying that I was doing. So I don't know if any of you have ever experienced this. And listen, if you're watching, on the Facebook app, make sure to, ask whatever questions along the way, because I want to be able to answer your questions. But that night, that it started out the same way, getting the kids ready for the next day and all that, putting them to bed, me coming downstairs, laying prostrate on the floor again, ready to cry again, right? But this night, the cry was like it was different. It was very, very different. And it was like one of the ugliest cries ever in the world. I mean, like, the cry where you don't even care if anybody's watching. It's the cry where snot is coming out both nostrils, and you're teared up so much you can't even see. It was just a really, really, really ugly cry. And I remember that the only thing that I was able to utter at that time was, "Lord, is this it? Is this it for me?" Because remember, like I said, according to what I was supposed to do, achieving that American dream, I had done all that. So if you've done all that, as everybody said that you're supposed to do, well, then what else is there? So that was the question that I uttered to the Lord. That was all that I could manage to say. Is this it? Right? And I'm thinking in my mind, if this is it, like, you could just take me on out of here right now. Like, just take me, you know? So
So can I ask you a
you
question
sure
before you keep
can.
going and tell us the
Absolutely.
answer?
Yes.
Because I know the story a little bit,
Yeah.
right? So when you asked God that question, was this it for me? Did you expect him to give you an answer based on where your mindset was at that time?
Right. So based on where my mindset was, I wasn't even sure I expected an answer. Because even in that time period, I just felt like I couldn't hear anything. I wasn't worthy of hearing anything from God. Yeah, I was in a real, just state of hopelessness. So yeah, I was asking the question, but you're not really sure if I was going to get an answer to the question or not. Good question.
Yeah, I thought so because I know often we'll talk about how we ask God these questions, especially in those seasons, but we forget to tell people whether we tell them He answered us, but did we really expect the answer? And so
Right.
I think it's important for them to hear that they're not alone in feeling like I'm asking, but I'm not really sure He's going to answer me or feeling that way.
Yeah, absolutely. Because, and I'm glad you asked that question, because as a woman who was, raised in the church, that whole, that was really tough for me, especially the divorce part, because, if you're in church or whatever, there's a lot of, you shouldn't be getting divorced and, all of that. And so there was a lot of that pressure, feeling like a failure and feeling unworthy. I even remember having a conversation with my pastor at the time as I was going through all this. And my pastor at the time, I'm gonna shout him out, Pastor Tunde Ojawale. He had this knack for knowing like when you needed to talk, or And so one time after, I can't remember if it was a Wednesday night service or Saturday service or whatever it was, but I had gotten in my car and he had this way. He just slid into the passenger side seat of my car, right? And so as he began to talk, I'm just crying and sniffling, and I'm like, I don't know how God can use me, and I'm laughing now, but it was, that was the way I truly felt. I'm like, how am I supposed to, be in leadership at church or do things or whatever, and there is chaos, in my home, there's the divorce, the pending divorce, and all the stuff that was going on, and all of that. So I really did not feel close to God, if you will, during that time. It had nothing to do with God, because of course He was there, but it was just the way I felt about myself, right? So yeah, I'm definitely glad that you asked that question. So that night, I laid down, I cried. It was a super ugly cry. And the next morning, I woke up, and of course, I'm telling people I literally had to peel my face off, off of the floor. As you lay there, you go to sleep and all that crying, and you wetting up the carpet and everything else, and then it dries. And so I'm waking up literally peeling my face up off the floor, and I just remember hearing very clearly, you can keep having this pity party, or you can get up. And that was it.
Wow.
Yeah, that was it. And I'm like, okay, get up and do what? Right? Get up and do what? I didn't, I was like, okay, but there were no other instructions at that time about get up and do what, right? And hindsight, looking at it, what I share with people is that, sometimes you have to take a step first, before God will reveal what the next is. You can't just expect that He's just going to roll it all out and say, okay, this is how it's all going to go or whatever. Sometimes you just, if He says just get up, He's going to see that you take that step first, and then you're taking that step. What I've learned in life is that, when you take the step, God will supply, the answers, the people, the places, the things, whatever you think you need, didn't know you needed, whatever. But you have got to be able to, make that decision and take the step first.
Lexi, I was going to ask you, that's a good point, because this was what my question was going to be to you. How did you know that the answer was from God and not from you? Because so many times when we get ourselves into that position and we're so distraught and we don't know what is the next, and then we go and we lay prostrate and we cry and we get up, and then all of a sudden there is this burst on the inside. And sometimes I wonder, is that from me or was it God? Or how do you put both the two together?
Yeah.
You know what I mean? So that well, this is the step I need to take.
Yeah, absolutely. So it's interesting that you asked that question, but, looking at it, the way I knew, because everything inside of me didn't want to get up. Everything inside of me was like, whatever. This is just, I had given up, right? And when I heard that voice, it wasn't like this loud, booming, chastising voice or anything like that. It was just a quiet, hey, you can keep having this pity party, or you can get up, And so I knew I knew it was from God because, one, the enemy would love for you to just stay consumed in whatever it is that you're going through. He would love for you to feel defeated. He would love for you to, not want to move on. He would, and he wants that because he knows, and this is for any and everybody listening. He knows that we were put on this earth for a very specific reason, a very specific person, a very specific purpose, a very specific mission. He knows that. Yeah. And I was just sharing with someone last night, like, how can we expect, why would we expect the enemy to just allow us to, to rise in our purpose and walk and it be easy and breezy and, no conflict, no nothing at all? Why would the enemy just allow that to happen? No, he's not going to allow that. He's not going to allow it because he knows what can happen as a result of you understanding why you're here on this earth. He knows what can happen.
Yeah, I was going to add, Lexi, you heard the prompting. You felt the prompting. That little voice that told you, okay, you got to move, you got to do something, is a prompting. And a lot of times those prompts come in those little whispers, those little things you hear on the inside in your inner ear, and you're wondering who is saying it. And one of the things I learned, my pastor talked about it this week, is that there will always be the wheat and the tares together. There will always be the grass and the weeds together. There will always be good and bad together. So you won't ever see one without the other. Yeah. And if you change the mindset and know that the good is going to come with the bad, it will prepare you to stand strong when you face those storms.
Yes, absolutely. Absolutely. And so that was something that I had to learn, along the way. And so that, so when I heard that little prompting, like I said, I'm like, okay, get up and do what, But, I had decided after hearing that, I'm like, yeah, I need to get up. I don't know what I'm supposed to do next, but, I know that I need to get up. This is not the way that I was raised. This is not, things just start to come back to you or whatever. And so, I did. So one of the first things that happened after that experience, I was working and I had gone to work. Probably a couple of days later, I had gone to work, and one of my coworkers, came to me and she said, hey, I just had this conversation with this guy who, is helping me with my finances. Do you want some, I can't remember how she said it. It was just really crazy. She's like, you want to meet with him? Do you want some help? Blah, blah, blah. And I'm sitting there like, okay, because this is what I was praying to God about these different things specifically in the area of finances because I was so jacked up in that area. Like the stuff was so messed up in that area. And so I was like, okay, I guess this is God, answering my prayer. So that's what I did. I said, yeah, okay, how do I meet with this guy or whatever? And so we got the meeting set up. The guy came out, met me at my job on my break, and began to share with me some concepts and some things. After I shared with him what was going on, he began to share with me some concepts, very simple concepts and things about what I could do to get back on track financially. And I was just blown away. I was blown away by what he was sharing with me. And the reason why I was blown away, because it wasn't even really the what he was sharing, but it was just the fact that it was so simple. I was like, what, really? That's it. You know what I'm saying? That's it. I can do that. I can do that. And so at that point, it gave me a lot of hope. I met with him a few times. We had put a plan in place. And so I now was feeling like, okay, I know kind of, where I'm going, what direction and all that as far as my finances and all of that. And see, in that particular area, the enemy, for me, he knew what area of my life would really have me, like, like cringing. And that is the area. That is the area. If there's any area the enemy wants to mess with me with, it's that, And so, like I said, I had a plan now. I'm feeling very hopeful. But in the process of that, I had decided, I'm like, okay, there are other people out there who need to hear what I have learned and, how to get out of the situation, maybe something similar to mine, or how to prevent themselves from getting into situations, that are similar to mine. And I said, okay, and I had always, you guys have to understand too, I always knew at some point I was going to own my own business. I knew that. When we were children, my sister and my brother and I, we owned all kinds of businesses in play, right? We owned all kinds of businesses in play. And we were always business owners. It was, or the whatever it was. So we had, R&R Supplies. That was our store. R&R stand for Ronnie Rick, something. We had these play names. And so we had R&R Supplies, and my mom hated it because we would literally take out all the toys. And we would, set up like we were in a store and all that, and had our cash register and our pretend customers coming in and buying stuff, and we bagged stuff up and all that. So we had that. And then we were producers of a TV show back then, like things like Judge Judy and all of that, where Judge Wapner was like, popular. And so we had a show like, we were, one of us was the judge and then the other two would play the defendant and so, we always, had this mind that, whatever we did, we were going to own it. And so that came back to me, at this point in time. And then I had the opportunity to be able to become an independent contractor and help people, with their finances. And I'm like, heck yeah, all this simple stuff I learned, that I wanted to do that. And it's interesting because if you would have asked me probably even 2 years before that, a year before that even, if that's what I would be doing, I would have laughed. Like, I just would have laughed because I'm like, first of all, I don't like numbers. I don't care about sitting out doing nobody's spreadsheets and budgets and, none of that. I would have laughed. But that was my perspective of, finances and all of that. You don't know what you don't know. But when I learned those concepts, I was like, oh my goodness, anybody can get excited about that. So that kind of propelled me into the land of entrepreneurship. I had dibbled and dabbled in some things, but that specifically propelled me into the land of entrepreneurship.
What was the time between that on the floor moment and you becoming an independent contractor? How long what was that progression like?
That progression was about, it was like 6 months. Yeah, 6 months, maybe even less. Maybe even
That's
less.
good to know.
Yeah.
That's good to know. Because sometimes people think it takes, 5 years, 10 years, or, that you have to have a lot of stuff in place for a shift to happen. And so for that to happen in that time span, I think it's really important for people to know it doesn't take forever. It didn't take you $1 million, right?
No, it took me $99.
Okay.
It took me $99. I mean, it's a whole nother story, but no, it didn't take me $1 million. And, again, great question, because it really is all about it's making a decision. That's what it is making a decision, because once you've made the decision, because you can want like forever, how long, right? And then you have to question if you really want it, if you haven't really gone after it and done it. So you can want it all day long, but once it becomes a decision, like, no, I don't just want it, I am going to do it, then yeah, it's a process that doesn't have to take. It can take literally from one moment to the next, because it's just making a decision.
Well, that's really good. Go ahead, Joan.
No, I was going to say, and that's where I would definitely give you a lot of credit, because you made the choice to make a decision. The minute you get up off of that floor where you had to peel your face off of the carpet, and you heard that prompting, and you made that decision that you were going to change your life, because it took action. Because granted, you were still not in an ideal situation, but you knew that there were steps that you were going to take.
Yeah.
And that's all God wants us to do. He wants us to make the decision, to make a choice, to take the step, to take action, and he will definitely back us up and be able to propel us into greater. But we have to do something first.
Yeah.
So congratulations to you on being brave enough and having the courage to step out of that sad place that you were in and make the move.
Yeah, absolutely. Thank you. So I think right now we're going to go to break. But when we come back, I'm really going to, through my story, now get into this space of, okay, yeah, that's what I was doing, but how did I figure out that was part of what was my purpose? All of that. How did I figure that out and begin aligning all that I was doing with that? So we'll be back.
The best in R&B and hip-hop on Radio Indie, empowering the community one show at a time. How would you like to sponsor The Journey, Organic Nonsense, Life Without Limits, Purpose Driven, or other great shows here on Radio Indie? Just log on to www.radioindie317.com for more information, or call 317-300-5162. That's 317-300-5162.
Stay connected. You can download the app on your Android or Apple device. Just visit your app store and search for Radio Indie.
Hey, we are back. You are listening to Dividing Truth with the MAG7 right here on Radio Indie. And so what we want to do is we want to make sure that, those of you that are listening, hey, invite someone to the broadcast so that they can get in on these great nuggets as well. We're sharing today on purpose, how to find your purpose, how to walk in your purpose, all of that. And we're doing that through me sharing my story. And my sisters are here, naturally asking questions to help me and help us help you, right? And so let's just dig right back in. Let's dig right back in. And I also want to remind you that if you're watching, if you have Facebook, go ahead, drop whatever, your questions, your comments We are watching that. We can see your questions, your comments, or any of that. So go ahead and whatever questions that you want to ask, go ahead and drop them there. Okay, so I want to shift a little bit now and really talk about like how I took what was happening and figured out, okay, what is my purpose and how do I, align all of these things with that? And I think that for a lot of us, you have to excuse me, these things keep sliding off my head because I cut my hair off. For a lot of us, we get to a point in our lives where we're asking, what is my purpose? What am I supposed to be here doing? I'm living life, but I feel like there's just more that I should be doing. I feel like, I've got some untapped potential. I feel like I'm not really, whether it's your place of work or you're part of some organization or whatever, you may be feeling like, I just don't feel like I'm being utilized to my greatest capabilities. So, if those are your questions, you start to go on this journey, of what is my purpose? And oftentimes, we ask this question like it's this thing that you've got to search for 25 years before you figure it out, because the way we're conditioned, we're not conditioned to really think about whatever we do with the backdrop of purpose behind it. All we're conditioned is like, grow up. What is it you're going to do? Pick a career, pick something you like, pick something maybe you're going to make some good money in or whatever. And we think that, okay, I picked that and that's what I'm supposed to do, until you get to this point in your life when you're like, ugh, you know what I'm saying? It's like, this isn't at all what I thought, I wanted to do or the way I thought it would unfold or anything like that. And so again, you start asking those questions. And so the first thing I want to say to those of you out there who may be asking yourself that question right now, like, what is my purpose? The first thing that I want to say is that it's already within you. It's already within you. Okay. There are signs all along the way from your childhood all the way until whatever you're doing, even whatever you're doing right now, even though it may be something that you really don't necessarily want to do, there are signs and there are patterns and threads and all kinds of things that, it doesn't take long to figure it out. You just got to know how to ask the right questions, right? And so, when I went on that journey, I found out that my purpose really was to transform lives. And I also found out that, purpose, calling, those are two different things, because sometimes in our society, people combine or use those two things interchangeably, which is a lot of times what confuses us as to really, what our purpose is. So I found out that, okay, my purpose, whatever that is broad. So like I said, mine is to transform lives. Yours may be, to advocate for or to heal or, to make laugh or to whatever. But your purpose is going to be it's going to be broad and it never changes, right? But then understanding what your calling is, your calling is how you fulfill the purpose, how you choose to fulfill it, how you choose to share it with the world, right? And so when I got clear on that, I was like, oh, okay. So I don't have to be stuck being this person who works in alternative education and social work because that's what my degree was in, right? I realized that, okay, I can choose, my purpose is to transform lives, and I can choose to do that however I want to do that, right? So that was a huge aha and a huge, breakthrough for me. Because again, like I said, we're conditioned to believe that, okay, your calling is your purpose, So, because when I ask people, what's your purpose? Oh, my purpose is to be a nurse. I'm like, no, that's not your purpose. That's the way you choose to fulfill your purpose. That's not your purpose, right? But most people, when you ask them that question, they respond with their occupation. And that's why so many people are feeling, confused and stuck. And so it's understanding that difference first, and then understanding that you don't have to be locked into being, if you're a healer, you don't have to be locked into being a nurse or a doctor, or, you can choose to heal in many different ways, a plethora of different ways. And so for me, I understood, okay, I'm here to transform lives. The next thing that I got an understanding of was what was my spiritual gifts into my natural abilities and talents, right? And so, I learned, and there are a lot of assessments out there. There are a lot of churches who do workshops on, figuring out what your spiritual gifts are. And so, I found out, okay, my spiritual gifts, which again are different from your natural gifts, or can be different. They can be one and the same, or they can be different. But I naturally have the ability to teach, but I also supernaturally have the ability to teach, right? And so so there's a difference. Like, you might have a talent in one area that's natural, but that doesn't necessarily mean it's your supernatural gift, or it could be. So you got to have an understanding of that, right? But I understood, okay, I am spiritually gifted in teaching. I'm spiritually gifted in discernment. I'm spiritually gifted, in a few things. And so I needed to understand that, because my spiritual gifting, and then also having an understanding of like my personality, because all these things, okay, I'm here to transform lives. My spiritual gifts tell me, okay, what exactly I'm going to do to be able to transform lives. And then my I said spiritual gifts, and then my personality. My personality is going to tell me how I'm going to do it, right? So I learned, for me and my personality, the way my brain works, I love processes and systems. I love acquiring knowledge. I love, all that type stuff, books, all that type stuff. So I knew for me that the way I was going to go about transforming lives, I would be using, my spiritual gift of teaching and discernment and all that. But I also knew that I would be able to help people in terms of putting processes in place and, some other things according to, my personality. So that helped me to figure out, okay, my purpose is to transform lives. My spiritual gifts tell me what I'm going to do. My personality tells me how I'm going to do it. And then really it was just up to me to figure out that path. I could have chosen anything, right? But I have chosen, to be a business coach in the area of finances. Why did I pick the area of finances? Because your life experience have a lot to do with what you're going to do and who you're going to serve, So you look back on your life experiences and you can almost see threads of things. You can see connections of things, right? And so I'm passionate about serving women, but it's because of the experiences that I've had, not just the 2008 experience, but the experiences I've had over my life and how it has impacted me as a woman. And then, like I said, that thread of things going on with finances, so I knew, for me, I just pulled all of that together and said, okay, transforming lives is my purpose. And the way I'm going to do that is through business coaching and with a heavy emphasis on finances, because I want women to be financially free. And for me, the best way to do that is through business ownership, through entrepreneurship. So I make it sound, like I came up with that in 2 minutes, going through that process. It took me a little bit of time to do that work. But, now because I've gone through that, I'm able to share with people how to do that work and do it much quicker than I did.
I have a question for you, Lexi. What was it that made you keep going? You know what I mean? Because so often we will start something and it doesn't yield the results we're looking for. And then we stop because we feel as if it's not fruitful for us.
Mm-hmm.
But you kept going, you kept going, you kept going. And I know it wasn't always win, win, win.
Right.
No, there were some
Still
backsliding for the lack of a better word, or some failures for lack of a better word. But what kept that desire in you to just keep going? What was it?
Yeah. So great question. So two things. Hey, Violet, I see you there on Facebook. And hey, Miss Lynn. Miss Lynn Braxton is listening. Hey, Mama Lynn. So, yeah, great question. So one of the things that keeps one moving really truly is understanding what your purpose is, understanding why you're here on this earth. Let me tell you guys something. When you know what your purpose is, and I know you ladies understand because you know what yours is as well. But when you know what your purpose is, like it gives you an energy like no other, right? And as Joan said, there's ups and downs. Everything is not, peachy keen. And you don't have like the peachiest attitude every day or all day or anything like that. But because you know that that's why you're here on this earth, you keep pressing through. Like as you can, a brick wall can be put up in front of you and you would just go through the brick wall because you understand why you're here. That's you understand why you're here. And then the other answer that I would give to that, these to me are just the two things that allow you to keep going. The second thing is really understanding why. Understanding why. Why am I doing this? And this is my purpose, but why am I doing it? And for me, it's being able to leave that legacy to the third and fourth generation. But I don't want to do it just for my family. I want to do it for other families as well, and teaching them to how to leave the legacies to the third and fourth generation, right? And so, yeah, those are the things that keep me going, when there, because the times will come where, you're facing trials, you're facing, all kinds of things. They're just, people ain't acting right or whatever. Those times will come, but it's those two things I believe that keep you moving.
So what happens, because this is the question I get, and these are the excuses I hear, right? But I have kids and I have a 9 to 5 and I have a significant other, or, I have all these demands. So how am I supposed to balance being an entrepreneur or pursuing my purpose when all these other things are happening in my life at the same exact time? I just don't know how I'm going to deal with that. How am I going to do it?
Yeah, absolutely. So, when someone says that, the first thing, and sometimes I have to watch the way that I respond because I'm like a very just listen,
Right?
but I'm very just straightforward. And that's how I'm going to answer right now. I'm like, as long as you have your butt in the way, but this, but that, but. I mean, what that's communicating to me is, again, that you haven't made a decision and that you don't want it. You say you want it, but you don't. You can't truly want it and have all those buts in the way. Because when you decide that you want something, and oftentimes I like to think about like little children, right? I have a 3.5-year-old. And when she wants something, she is absolutely relentless in wanting it. She will ask 50 million times and will not take no. Will not take no, okay, for an answer. There is just, you tell her something, oh, yes, okay, I'll get it to you in a few minutes, whatever. There is no forgetting. There is no taking no. There is nothing, absolutely relentless in it, right? So I share with people, I'm like, okay, you haven't made a decision. Either it's not what you truly want, you're just saying it because it sounds good, right? Or you just have not made a decision. The same things, the same excuses that you have given your kids, your 9 to 5, your whatever, you can be using all those things as leverage. to do what you want to do? Why do your kids have to be the hindrance? Why can't they not be, the very reason why you get out there and do it, the drive for what you do? Why does your 9 to 5 have to be a hindrance? Why can't you look at it and say, okay, the skills that I'm learning here, I can translate and do this over here. Yes, I get off work and I'm tired. But, this is my, we like to call it the silent investor, right? I'm just going, use that money to help me do this over here. Why do we have to use it, as a hindrance? So the very excuses that you put up are the very things I'm going to turn around and say, yeah, but if you think about it in this way, you might actually get somewhere. So good question.
That's good.
Good question.
So
Yeah.
if there's somebody out there that's watching right now, Lexi, and they're in a situation similar to what you were in a few years ago, and they don't see a way out, or they know that there's something on the inside, but they don't know how they're going to even activate that, what would you say to them? What would you say to them?
So I would say first, because as a believer, seek God. Seek God. And then also ask God, to place people, places, and things, in your path, or to lead you to, the right people, places, and things. One of the things when we're going through, we often feel like we're the only one going through, and nobody else will understand. Nobody else, is having these struggles or has had these struggles. Everybody else that we see out there doing this thing, they're living such a glamorous life, and if you're looking on social media, you see, like I like to say, you're seeing everybody's highlight reels, but you don't know what they've had to go through, to get where they are. Everybody has a story. So, seek God, and then, talk to somebody, because you will be surprised how many people, and there are people out there who will be transparent and say, hey, yeah, I remember I faced a similar situation, or even if the situation isn't similar, but just let me tell you how to, shift things in your brain so you can, get moving or keep moving. So those are a couple of things that I, recommend. Seek God, and then don't be afraid to share with someone what's going on with you, someone that obviously someone that you can trust. You don't want to just share with any old body, might be putting your stuff out there just because they like seeing you down. You got to be mindful of who you share with, but you do need to, to share and to talk so that you understand you're not alone.
And I think that's what I love about the MAG7, because we have each other. And I know that I would not be where I am today had it not been for you and Erica and Rhonda and Dee and Danita. And am I missing anybody else?
Lisa.
And Lisa, right? I would not be, because each of us has our own thing, our own specialty. And as a result of that, we are able to share what we know, what we're the experts in. But I've had to lean on you guys for so many things, and it doesn't always have to be business. It can just be for moral support. Mm-hmm. There's a lot of times where I feel so broken, although social media, when I show up on social media happy and smiling all the time, but there's a lot of times when behind the scenes, I don't feel as nice and fluffy and airy as you see. And so when I talk to you, or when I talk to Erica, or when Erica prays for me, or you pray for me, or Danita call, or Lisa, or Rhonda, or Dee, then I am replenished. Mm-hmm. And so it is nice. I loved your answer to the last question, because if you out there that are watching that can find a group of women to be able to support you in that way, where there's no judgment, just genuine love and collaboration and collective, then the chances for you winning and thriving and growing is that much higher.
Yeah, absolutely. You want to say something here?
Let me add to that real quick. And if you find that group of women, be vulnerable, because it's going to require you to trust that they care about you. And I know that sometimes as women, we get a bad rap, or because of something we've been through with friends or whatever, we don't always trust. And I think the beauty in what you see behind MAG7 is we just had to let that piece of us go. If it ever existed for one of us, then we had to just say, you know what, I'm just going to try it out, and I'm gonna take a chance on these women being able to hear my truth and trusting me. And that's where your relationships will flourish, and you get this dynamic where you guys can grow and support each other genuinely. And if you don't have it, start it. Don't wait on somebody to call you up and present you with the opportunity. You be the one to rally the troops together and bring a group of women together because you need it, and then everything will follow. But I just have to say that you have to be willing to be vulnerable to really, really see the fruit of a good relationship is being open, And that's what we have, and that's what we want all of you to have for sure. And that's probably one of the common questions we get is, how did you guys do this? How do you have this type of relationship? And there's a vulnerability amongst all of us that exists. We give you guys on social media our best, right? Our best smile, our best energy, but I can go back to the six of them and cry my eyeballs out when I'm done. So that's what makes it whole.
Yeah, absolutely. Great point. I just wanted to read a couple of the comments we got on Facebook. Violet says, yes, your why makes everything clearer and gives you drive. Lynn says, so we have to make sure to get our butts out of the way. Absolutely. So we can't let anything keep us from doing God's will for us. And again, Violet says, I always pray for instructions and clarity. I also am surrounded by accountability partners because sometimes we need to look outside of our own houses for support. And that's exactly what Joan and Erica were just talking about, and the importance of doing that. And I know that in our society, the way we're conditioned, that's a little weird because it's like, everybody out for themselves is the kind of, that's the kind of thing that we're trained up in, and we can't trust anybody and, all of that. But that's not, it's not the case. It doesn't have to be. It's not the case. Are there people out there who kind of, whatever? Yeah, but there are many more people out there who are willing, to come alongside you and walk along that journey. So I just wanted to, for kind of clarification, we're talking about, finding your purpose and understanding your purpose and how to walk in it and all of that. But I wanted to just kind of put some points out there for clarification if you're listening and you're truly desiring to understand what your purpose is. So one, I want you to know it's already within you. Okay. It's not something that you discover outside of you. It is already within you. God sent you to this earth with that already instilled within you. And so it's just a matter of looking back, over your life and looking at what's going on in your life currently. And how do you do that? One, make a decision. You make a decision, okay? I want to know what my purpose is, and I'm committed to finding that out. And when I find it out, I'm committed to walking in it. Once you make the decision, then again, like I said, there are things that you want to look at. You want to look at your spiritual gifts, your natural gifts. You want to, get an understanding of who you are, your personality, and how you operate so that you know who you're out there, when you're out serving people, how you do that, because that's what makes you uniquely you. And then think about, your life experiences from childhood all the way till now. I promise you there's some threads that you will find. Look at those life experiences, positive and negative, because see, in our society, we are like, when it comes to the negative stuff that goes on, or the traumatic stuff that goes on, we're like, oh, we're going to push that under the rug, shove it under the rug. I don't want to think about that here. Nobody wants to hear about that, because of course, when you go to get a job, nobody wants to hear you failed your certification test. You had to take it 3 times. Nobody wants to hear all that. But in the kingdom, those are the things really, and I might say, those negative things more often, maybe even than some of the positive things. Those are the things that, help you to be able to impact lives in the way that you do. So don't discount, the things that have happened to you, the negative things that have happened to you, along with those positive things. And again, like I said, just, look for the thread. You can ask people. One exercise I did was I asked people that I worked with, people that I was on committees with, friends, family, I would just go and ask them, hey, listen, when we have an encounter, how do I leave you feeling? Or if we're working together or whatever, when and how have you seen me doing my best work? What was it about? Ask people, and they will tell you, and you will see threads, because that's what I did. I probably asked about like 15 different people. And then I just saw this thread over and over about transforming and change. And I'm like, that's just naturally what I do, And so what your purpose and what you do and how you do it, it's so it's like sleep, like you do it in your sleep. And sometimes because it comes so easy to you, you don't even realize that is I like to call it, when I'm talking with my clients, that's your secret sauce. That's your six-figure thing. That's the thing that's going to bring you all your money, So I wanted to share those points and make sure that everybody had clarity on that process of understanding your purpose. All right. Any last questions, ladies? We've got a couple minutes before we're getting out of here. Any last questions? I'm looking at our thread, or thoughts or comments.
I think I'm just going to add one comment and then I'm done. I think that when we look at our lives, we've got to understand that. And I love how you said, sometimes your purpose has been there from you were a kid, because if you look at where it's almost like this thread that's in your life all the way through from you're a child until now. And when you finally decide or understand what your purpose is, you will see that you have had that from when you were a child. So don't negate the things that you used to do as a child. You talked about setting up the shop, the R&R shop, right? With all the toys, and selling the toys, right? And being on some type of a show. And today you are literally helping people set up their shop. You're helping people set up their business. You're creating abundance financially for other people. So, and you could see that as you were a child. So for those of you who are out there that are watching, don't discount what you did when you were a child and how much you love that. Because I remember teaching kids my age how to spell. I was 6 years old and I was teaching children that were older than me how to spell. I won the spelling bee championship when I was 11 in Jamaica. I am great at spelling to this day. But not only with the spelling, but now I'm able to help people get to their next level. So that was almost like teaching as well, because you're impacting lives to change outcomes. So don't negate what you knew or did when you were a child, because that thread is going to be all the way through your adulthood. And that really and truly is what your purpose is. And like you said, Lexi, at the top of the show, you were born with it.
Yeah.
You were born.
Yes, I agree. I can remember being 9, 10, 11 years old. My mom's watching. She can attest. I was giving relationship advice and marital advice to adult women. And I was a little kid and they would confide in me. And I'm pretty sure I just told them what I heard on TV or what sounded good at the time. But little did I know that the Lord would use my experiences later to be able to speak that with truth, those same things that I was saying then. But I found so much joy in them confiding in me, even though my mom thought it was completely inappropriate for them to talk to me. But it had a purpose. It had a purpose in shaping who I am and what I do today.
Absolutely. Absolutely. Well, we want to thank all of you for joining us on today. You've been listening to Dividing Truth with the MAG7 here on Radio Indy. Tune in next Thursday, 2:00 p.m., where another one of our MAG7 sisters will be telling their story. We will have some more wisdom and nuggets for you all. Share this out. You guys have an amazing rest of your Thursday. Lexi Jones Axel Randall, Erica Etienne. We'll see you next time.